The penultimate plague is the plague of choshech, of darkness, where there was this intense darkness. It was so dark, in fact, that it was tangible. You could touch the air and it felt like there was darkness. According to some, it was one of those massive sandstorms that they sometimes have in the Middle East, where you can't see your hand in front of your very face. What was the reason for the darkness? And Rashi gives two interpretations. One is that there were many Hebrew slaves at that time who actually didn't want to leave their situation. As bleak and as terrible as it was, they wanted to remain in Egypt. They didn't want change. They didn't want to accept responsibility or spirituality. And they actually died in Egypt. But so that the Egyptians shouldn't realize it, they died during the week of darkness and they were buried. And no one was the wiser. So that's one interpretation. A second interpretation is that the Egyptians owed the Hebrews a great deal of back pay. They hadn't been paying them for at least 2 centuries. And one of the commands of God is that each of the Hebrew slaves should go to their Egyptian neighbor and say to them, you owe us back pay. Give us utensils, give us garments. And perhaps the Egyptian will say, well, I don't have anything to give you. So during the week of darkness, the Hebrews were able to move about. It wasn't dark for them. They could be standing in the same room as an Egyptian. The Egyptian would be standing there stock still in the darkness. But as far as the Hebrew was concerned, it was completely light. He could examine the house and he could find exactly where the valuables were. So that when the Egyptian would later claim, I don't have anything to give you, he would say, not true. You do have something to give me and I know exactly where it is. But perhaps there's something else about the plague of darkness that's really quite incredible. It says that for that amount of time, lo ra'u ish et achiv, one man was not able to see his fellow man, his brother. He couldn't see his brother. And that just seems to be a symbolic way of saying that it was so dark that one person couldn't see another person. But perhaps what the Torah is doing is giving a definition. What does darkness mean? What does spiritual darkness mean? It means when one man doesn't see his brother. People walk around focused only on themselves. What are my needs? What are my problems? That's darkness. If you live in a world like that, even if it's full of light, you're actually living in darkness because you don't see what the other person has. But the opposite of darkness is where you can see, this is my brother. I can see my brother. I can see that my brother, my relative, my friend, my community member is going through a hard time. And how can I help them? That's what it means to live in light. We live in a society where everything is about me. iPod, the iPad, the me generation, me too, etc., etc. What about living for other people? What about the ability to see the pain and the suffering of another person and to help them out? That is light. That is the opposite of darkness. I wish you a Shabbat Shalom.